The son of Rob Reiner is in custody following the suspected murder of the famed director and his wife. Chile votes out its socialist regime in a landslide election, and an NFL star stands up for persecuted Christians. I'm Georgia Howe with Daily Wire executive editor John Bickley. It's Monday, December 15th, and this is Evening Wire.
Nick Reiner has been taken into custody following the gruesome stabbing deaths of his famous parents, director Rob Reiner and photographer Michelle Singer Reiner. Daily Wire culture reporter Megan Basham has more.
Rob and Michelle were found dead Sunday of stabbing wounds in their Los Angeles home. Now, LA Sheriff's Department records show that their son Nick, who has a history of drug addiction, was taken into custody on an unspecified felony charge. He's being held on $4 million bail. Now, this arrest comes after reports that the LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division interviewed Nick following the suspected double murder. Rob Reiner's film career spanned decades as he turned out cult classics like This Is Spinal Tap and The Princess Bride, in addition to blockbusters like Stand By Me, A Few Good Men, and When Harry Met Sally.
While sympathetic posts flooded the internet, President Trump drew backlash for his response, in which he tied Rob Reiner's death to his frequent criticism of Trump, calling the deaths a very sad thing. Trump went on to say that he passed away reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, end quote.
More details are emerging about the Hanukkah massacre at Bondi Beach over the weekend. Daily Wire senior editor Joel Needler has the latest.
Authorities have identified the shooters as father and son Saeed and Naveed Akram. Saeed was legally able to own firearms in strictly regulated Australia because he had a recreational hunting license. Counterterrorism authorities apparently looked into the son Naveed back in 2019 over his association with the Islamic State. Police reportedly believe the duo had both pledged allegiance to the Islamic State before the attack. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese apparently intends to introduce new gun legislation in response.
Federal authorities say they foiled a major terrorist plot arresting 4 alleged members of a radical pro-Palestinian extremist group. Daily Wire reporter Brecca Stoll has more.
The FBI says the suspects identified themselves as part of a violent offshoot of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, who were planning to hit 5 locations across Los Angeles using improvised explosive devices. Agents arrested the group in Lucerne Valley, where they were reportedly preparing to test explosives and charge them with conspiracy and possession of destructive devices. A 5th suspected member was arrested in New Orleans for a separate planned attack. Officials say the group also discussed targeting ICE agents. Here's Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley.
These threats are sophisticated, organized campaigns of targeted intimidation, radicalization, threats, and violence designed to silence opposing speech, limit political activity, and direct policy outcomes and prevent the proper functioning of a democratic society.
The nation of Chile has moved sharply to the right, with the hardline conservative candidate winning the presidency in a landslide. Jose Antonio Cast won the election this weekend after a campaign focused on crime and immigration. The 59-year-old devout Catholic has run twice before unsuccessfully, but his message clearly resonated with the nation this time around. He defeated Communist Party candidate Jeanette Jara by an overwhelming 17-point margin.
Erica Kirk and Candace Owens met privately today, in person and off camera. Daily Wire reporter Lyndon Blake has more.
Both have agreed that live streams will be paused until after the meeting. Charlie Kirk's widow has been at the center of theories promoted by Candace Owens on her podcast since Kirk's death back in September. This resulting in widespread skepticism toward the TPUSA organization among Owens's followers. Owens has repeatedly demanded discussions with TPUSA to ask questions, though she previously demurred when the organization invited her to join them live in the studio. Statements from both camps are expected in the next few days after the meeting.
Live Nation and Ticketmaster just took a major legal blow after a judge in California said the companies must face a sweeping class action lawsuit over their ticket prices. The suit accuses them of squeezing American concert goers for years. Judge George Wu ruled that millions of fans who bought tickets through Ticketmaster or Live Nation, going all the way back to 2010, can band together, covering more than 400 million ticket sales. The lawsuit claims Live Nation's grip on the ticketing world let it jack up prices and dodge competition. The company, however, insists it did nothing wrong and says venues, not Ticketmaster, set most of the fees.
A curious case in family court as a Chinese billionaire is discovered to potentially have fathered over 100 children in the U.S. via surrogacy. Daily Wire assistant editor Andy Valdez explains.
Ears were raised in a Los Angeles courtroom as routine surrogacy petitions, which are usually a quick rubber stamp process, began showing the same name again and again. Xu Bo, a billionaire Chinese video game developer, had filed 12 parentage petitions with the court. Online, he has claimed to have fathered over 100 surrogate children in the U.S., raising serious questions about the surrogacy system. While the judge did block the petitions for now, legal experts point out that Xu appears to have acted within the law.
More than 1 million Ukrainian households are without power today after one of the most intense nights of Russian strikes this winter. Here's Daily Wire reporter Zach Jewell.
Moscow launched over 450 drones and dozens of missiles at energy sites across the country. President Zelensky said the attacks, which also damaged ports, water systems, and other infrastructure, show Russia has no intention of ending the war. The barrage comes as U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff prepares to meet Zelensky and European officials in Berlin to push a U.S.-backed peace framework. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Ukraine reports a rare advance, regaining some territory despite heavy Russian offensives along the front.
As for Witkoff, he's touting, quote, a lot of progress in yesterday's discussions. Ukraine's top peace negotiator echoed that language, saying the talks were, quote, constructive and productive with real progress achieved. Zelensky has said that he is willing to forego a bid to join NATO as part of the agreement if the West is willing to provide sufficient security guarantees.
SpaceX has begun courting Wall Street banks ahead of a potential IPO. The leadership sent a memo to its employees on Friday outlining their intentions to pursue taking the company public, highlighting the opportunities to raise additional capital. The company has now reportedly begun taking pitches from Wall Street banks, each vying for the opportunity to guide SpaceX through the public offering process. As SpaceX becomes more and more intertwined with government and national defense interests, a potential IPO is expected to draw significant attention from Wall Street and regulators alike.
A tech-savvy law enforcement officer was responsible for cracking the case of who placed the pipe bombs near the RNC on January 5th, 2021. Daily Wire reporter Tim Pierce has more.
The FBI says cell phone data proved crucial, but it sat on the digital shelf for years due to challenges in isolating specific phone numbers. That's until an officer wrote a program to decipher it. After isolating his phone number, the Bureau zeroed in on 30-year-old Brian Cole Jr. Agents were able to find incriminating Google searches related to bomb creation and directions to key sites, as well as credit card purchases for bomb components. Brian Cole Jr. confessed to placing the bombs during a 4-hour FBI interview in early December.
A Hong Kong court has ruled against the owner of the last remaining free newspaper in the province in a landmark national security trial. Daily Wire DC Bureau Chief Tim Rice has the story.
78-year-old media tycoon and British citizen Jimmy Lai, founder of the pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily, was convicted on charges of sedition and collusion with foreign forces. Lai had already been detained for 5 years and faces a potential life sentence for allegedly lobbying foreign governments to impose sanctions on Hong Kong and China. Judges ruled that Lai intended to destabilize the governance of the CCP through his actions and publications. Western democracies like the United Kingdom and Australia roundly condemned the move, calling it a significant blow to press freedom and judicial independence in Hong Kong. Critics say it exemplifies how the CCP uses the national security law to suppress dissent.
An NFL star is shining a spotlight on Christian persecution around the world. Once a year, players can choose any charitable cause to raise awareness for through a unique cleat design, which the players wear for their My Cause, My Cleats game. The Special Olympics, Cancer Foundations, and youth sports are all popular picks for players, but Patriots running back Travion Henderson chose to highlight Christian persecution, specifically the organization called Global Christian Relief and the work they do to help the 380 million persecuted Christians around the world. Henderson had this to say.
When you read the Bible and you look at what Jesus teaches us and what he warns us just about the persecution that we will face for following him, there's not much awareness about it. It really just opened my eyes because, the things that Christ was warning us about, I started to realize that is still happening today.
Those are your Drive Home updates this evening. To learn more about these stories, go to dailywire.com. And in case you missed it earlier today, we covered some major stories, including terrorists targeting American soldiers in Syria and more than a dozen Jews in Australia, the manhunt in a fatal shooting at Brown University, and a federal judge forcing the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another full edition of Morning Wire.